Hi, this is Mary Michon at Bensell Greenhouse in Toledo, Ohio, and today we're talking about jades. Jades or Crassula Ovatas are really a very popular, easy plant to bring inside and grow throughout the year, whether you want to take them outside in the summer and bring them back in or keep them in your house all year long. So the one thing to think about is really your lighting. Jades are succulents, they need bright light, they need a minimum of 4 hours of either direct sun or very bright southern or western exposure per day. If you have a northern or an eastern exposure, they may start to stretch. They may not be as full as they normally would be with brighter light. So that would be something to consider before purchasing one or when you're placing one in your house. The other thing is to consider is jades don't really like a lot of fertilizer. We typically fertilize in their growing periods, which here in the Midwest is from usually the end of April, May through September. And we fertilize minimally with a very well-balanced fertilizer, like a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20. We water them well and then let them go. If you see that your jades, if you fertilize them, and they sometimes tend to flush the limes or the calciums through their pores or stomata through their leaves, if they're getting excess. So don't be concerned about that. You would see little tiny little white dots throughout the plant. They would be uniform throughout. It wouldn't be a real like a bug problem. You would see it on the leaves. So that's also something to consider because they're so easy and don't require a lot of fertilizer. You're not spending a lot of money or time trying to figure out when you fertilized last. I have a couple different varieties of jades here in front of me. We've got at our greenhouse a number. We've got Gollum, we've got Temple, we've got Hobbit Jade, we've got, this one is Hummel Sunset that's got a really nice yellow and red tip to it. We've got your traditional large leaf jades. We've got a miniature leaf jade. And then we've got one that's elongated tip jade. And they're all beautiful and they all do about the same and they all grow about the same. I pulled a bunch from our back storage holding area and I pulled a few from my main aisle where we're selling them. And I wanted to kind of go through with you because a lot of people come in and they ask for help on how do I trim my jades? What do I do with my roots? And so let me just start and show you what you need to do to maintain and manicure your jades. So we're going to start in the pot first. I tell everybody when they come in and talk about their plants and the issues that they might have, this is going on, I don't know what's happening. Let's start in the pot first. I tell everybody, pull your plant out of the pot. The same story goes for your jade. You want to take a look at it, see what's happening. I see a lot of nice soil here. I just start to see the roots are starting to develop more towards the end of the pot. That tells me that when we're watering here, that I'm doing a good job watering because the roots are down at the bottom of the pot. If you pull your plant out and it's been in that pot for a year and there is no roots down at the bottom, it's only at the top, it tells me that you haven't watered it thoroughly. Like all plants, you like to water it deeply so it drains through, make sure it's heavy wet, and then you let it go. Jades in the summertime, sometimes if they're outdoors, need weekly watering. Then you slow it down as the temperatures start to drop and you start moving it into the house. Depends upon the heat in your house and the window, the sunlight in the area. You need to make sure that you're watering your jade at a minimum every 2 to 3 weeks. I like how the root system looks on this plant. I like how it fits right back into the pot. When I set it down, it stands upright, which tells me that the shape of it is great. I'm not going to touch this plant. He's looking good, and I'm going to keep watering him like I typically do. I wanted to take a look at a couple other ones. Now, here's another one. This is a miniature leaf jade, and this guy he's in a very small pot. He doesn't seem to be pot bound, but look at the top. He's actively growing. If I try to set him down, he's going to tumble over. Okay? And this could happen in your house too. If you have them in a clay pot, it's going to be a little bit more supported in a clay pot because it's weighted down. But it may not, it's still this to me just is too much stress on the plant. It's going to break. It's also sending out roots on the side, which tells me that the watering is not well. And so I'm going to leave it in this pot. But now what we're going to do is we're going to trim it up. So I take a look at this. I'm looking for balance. I see that there's an additional shoot off of here that does not look like it's doing the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down below and I'm going to remove all these shoots. We're not going to get rid of these. I'll show you what we're going to do with these later. And I'm going to start at this other shoot down here and I'm going to bring it down. I'm looking at each of the leaf nodes and I'm going to kind of go back about a couple inches, and wherever you cut it, you visualize where it's going to start to grow again. So a nice growth pattern coming out at this length is going to be nice for it. And then I'm going to look at everything that is drooping and I'm going to start trimming this way back. I want to manicure it. I want to open it up. There's a lot going on in this plant. You want to trim your jade plants before they start breaking and snapping and falling over, because when they fall over and start breaking, then it's a tear along the stem as opposed to a nice clean cut. Then you're opening it up for more diseases, and then you'll have problems with your jade. So I'm just going to go real light at first, and I'm going to spin this around and take a look at it. So I've trimmed off quite a bit. Some of these branches were very, very long, but let me set this back in the pot now. And let's see, stands up nicely. That's my goal. I also like to thin it out too, because it gets better light towards the center of the plant, helps with the growth, keeps everything nice and green. I just set this down, and as I walk to the side, I just don't like the way this looks. I'm going to take this off. It's all personal preference too. You really want to do the best for the plant. And sometimes I do enjoy a plant that's got a weird look to it. I'm not opposed to that. But don't let your plant get so heavy wet that it's starting to snap. That's my biggest concern about jades. I also pulled this guy out. This one is this pointed tip jade. I like this guy. He's beautiful. Nice big trunk. We have lots of jades at our place that have really thick trunks, and a lot of people always ask me, how do you get your jades to get so thick at the joints? And a lot of times it's really because we trim the roots on these pots and we put them back in, we up pot them. So I was looking at this one today. It's really got a great potential to it. It's shooting off to this side. It's going to drip a little bit. It's nice and full down in here, but it also had roots coming out of the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to pot this guy up into a clay pot. Jades love clay. They're very porous. They're light and draining. I'm not going to really do a whole lot to the root system, but tease it a little bit on the bottom. And then I'm just going to pack my soil in around. Again, we're using our Pro Mix professional grade soil. It's very light. It drains really well. I don't have to add anything to this soil. It's got perlite. It's got the right amount of peat in it. So I got this guy potted up in a nice 6-inch clay from a 4-inch pot. We only went up a couple inches. And now I'm going to do a little bit of manicuring. And again, it's really personal preference. It doesn't have to be perfect. I love plants that have character to them, and I think this plant has got a lot of character. So I'm going to go down and I'm just looking at this plant. I'm looking at what is shooting out at the branches. I kind of like how it's veering off to the side, but I also love the look of the trunks of jade. And I think that sometimes a lot of the foliage down below isn't always a good thing, because again, it's not letting a lot of light in. I'm going to come through here and trim up this. Some of these branches are yellowing, so I'm going to take these guys off. I've got a really nice V right here. And now I'm just going to kind of come up and look at the length of each stem. And this stem stops here, so I'm going to tip this guy here, and I'm going to come in and cut this down so that when these grow back, they're all going to be about at the same length. And now I'm looking at these up here. So this guy is starting to turn downward. He's getting heavy. And I'm looking at my nodes. You can see the lines on your jade, and I'm going to kind of count back 4 to 6 nodes. I'm going to trim on the top. And now this guy juts up, so I'm going to trim him down here. So now what I've done is this little area has kind of got a nice clump. And I'm going to just do this throughout the plant. Don't worry about it being bare for a while. Just give it about 3 to 4 weeks and it will start to shoot off. We'll show some pictures of some of the newer growth that's coming through on these guys. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to watch where it comes back up here. And once it starts to fill in, if I don't like this shooting off, give it a few months and you can cut it way back. The beauty of jades are, and don't do this in the wintertime, but you can come in on a very heavy branch and you can cut it back. You can cut it back here. I just see right now, I see a little guy coming out there, so I don't want to cut him off. I might come up here and take this off. And now I've evened him out. A lot of different techniques in trimming jades. They're very forgiving. Just use your best judgment. Do less at first before you start hacking away at it. Try one branch first. Wait and see how long it takes to flush back out. Do another branch. It's always good to just go slow at first and just learn your technique. I took all these cuttings off these jade. There's so many cuttings. And I like to propagate. We propagate these all the time. Very easy, traditional propagation. You're looking at the node. I'm just cutting them, try to make it less than 4 inches. And all I'm going to do is I remove the bottom leaves where I'm going to stick it. And I have my soil. I've already moistened it. I don't have to wait with your jades. You don't have to wait a week for them to callus over. They do stick nicely as long as they're not going into a cold, damp area. A nice warm place that is out of direct sunlight. Keep your soil lightly moist, and in about 3 weeks or so you'll start seeing roots coming out of your jades and you'll have more plants to share. Thanks for watching. This is Mary Michon at Bencel Greenhouse in Toledo, Ohio.